The Soldiers of Ares, Chapter 27. They got the last bus to the city. Maximus slept through most of the trip, and Mia had to wake him up when they reached their stop. The bus dropped them off right in front of the castle entrance. They walked up its stairs, and Mia looked a bit nervous. "I've been here for a few months now, but I've never actually even been inside the castle grounds. Are you sure this is okay?" She said. "Don't worry, you're with me," Maximus said, and they went through the main doors. Just as they took a few steps inside, one of the reception nymphs came running towards them. "Mr. Maximus, everyone has been searching for you. You sure did pick a bad day to take a stroll. There have been a string of murders around the city. The champion and the others are waiting for you in the dining hall," she said. Maximus had a feeling that the string of murders she mentioned had something to do with the man in black they had seen before. The nymph went with them to the elevator, and when they reached it, the nymph turned to Mia and asked, "Excuse me, but who are you? My list does not show any mention of a female among the guests." Mia didn't know what to say, and she turned to Maximus for help. "Don't worry, she's with me," Maximus said. The nymph had an annoyed expression on her face. She obviously didn't approve of Mia being there, but she didn't object. Instead, she said, "All right, sir, if you're sure. You just have to sign this form here as proof that she's your responsibility when she's in the castle." She talked like Mia was a stray cat, or something he had brought with him, which wasn't such a bad comparison, seeing as she still reminded him of a cat. The nymph handed him a form and a pen. Maximus just stared at the form for a while. "What's wrong? You're not planning to just leave me here, are you?" Mia asked. "No, it's not that. It's just that I have never signed anything before," he said, a little embarrassed. The truth was, he never had the need to. In the army, they only used fingerprint scans. And what was he supposed to sign in the trenches? "By the Olympian gods, you do know to read and write, don't you?" Mia asked. "Of course I do," he said. "Then just write your name in a fancy way, and you're jolly good to go," she said. Maximus decided to just go with it. Once he had signed, the nymph gave one last dirty look at Mia and went on her way. Once her back was turned, Mia put her tongue out at her and said, "Are all the castle staff this nice?" Maximus grinned and said, "Don't worry, most staff are robots and they can tolerate anybody, even you." Mia responded by saying, "Nice sign, by the way, real feminine, but dotting your I with a star was a bit much, don't you think?" And Maximus just scowled at her. They took the elevator to the dining hall, and when they entered Achilles, Ajax and Hedger were waiting for him. "Damn it, Max, where the heck were you?" Hedger began to say, but he stopped suddenly when he saw Mia with him. He just stared at her, then back at Maximus and asked, "Who is this?" "Maybe I should have thought this through," Maximus thought. He turned to Mia and said, "Maybe you should wait outside while I clear things out." But she was clearly trembling. In a whisper, she told him, "That's the champion, Ajax." Maximus turned to the others and said, "Excuse me," with the best smile he could. Then before any of the others could stop him, he dragged her out. Once outside, she said, "That was really Ajax. I got to say I didn't believe you at first, but there's no arguing now." The other guy with the scar above his eye looked kind of familiar too. "Yeah, you probably heard of him. His name is Achilles," he said, and her eyes widened. But before she could say anything, he said, "Look, yeah, I know it's amazing to see two heroes from the Trojan War, and it doesn't stop there. There's also Daedalus and Hephaestus here as well, and you might run into them too. But please don't lose your cool. Now, I'm going to go back inside and tell them what's going on. You wait here till I come and call you. Understand?" Mia didn't say anything, but she nodded in agreement. Maximus went back inside, and it was Ajax who spoke to him. "If you were going to be late on a date, you should have let someone know. There were some bad things going on in the city." "Yeah, I heard, but she's not my date," Maximus said. "Okay, then who is she?" Hedger asked. Maximus did not know what to say, so he just blurted out the first thing that came to his mind. "She's going to be joining us to Athens." The three of them just looked at him. "Do you know this girl from somewhere?" Ajax asked. Maximus shook his head to answer no. "Wow, so you met a girl and convinced her to run away with you to another city. You might be better with women than you were, Achilles," Ajax said. Achilles still hadn't uttered a single word, and this worried Maximus a little. In the past few days, he had found a new kind of respect for Achilles as a mentor, and the last thing he wanted to do was disappoint him. "No, it's nothing like that. I sort of promised her I would take her with us to Athens," he said. Achilles finally looked up at him and said, "Explain." Maximus started off with how he had been robbed and kidnapped from the market. He explained the deal he had made with Mia for helping him, and finally about the man in black. It was the truth until this point. Then he said that they were hiding for the rest of the time in case the man in black came back. His story was followed by silence. Finally, Ajax asked, "Was the name of the tavern the Dirty Dishes?" Maximus didn't know, but he roughly described the location and he confirmed it was the same. That tavern was one of the 4 places where mass murders took place today, and all 4 were run by the Dirt Pick crew, Ajax said. From what I understand, every member of the Dirt Picks is now dead, and the reports say it was all done by a single man. Maximus tried to take in what he had just heard. A mafia crew like that usually had around 100 members, maybe more, and most of them would have been hardened criminals. And Ajax had just said they were all killed off by one man. Maximus wouldn't have believed him if he hadn't met that man himself. But the person he had met seemed capable of worse. We will discuss this later, once Hephaestus has joined us as well. For now, what about the girl? Achilles said. Do you know why she wants to go to Athens? Hedger asked. Why don't you just ask her? Maximus said. He went outside to fetch Mia and found her listening at the door. Yeah, I heard everything. These doors aren't exactly soundproof. You know, she said, and don't worry, I'll handle it from here. They went back inside, and the others waited for her to begin, so she did. Hello, my name is Mia Damocles. I'm from a small village in the country of Bacchus. I'm a traveler, and it was always a dream of mine to visit Athens. But it's nearly impossible to get in there without the proper paperwork. So when Max let it slip, he could get me inside. I made a deal with him. I hope that's all right. The entire dialogue seemed a bit reversed to Maximus, but it did get to the point. Achilles was not convinced, though. There's a reason it's hard to get into Athens. They are at war, and we can't just bring someone along. For all we know, you could be a spy. He was so cold when he said this that Mia was almost about to cry. But luckily, Ajax stepped in. Come on, Achilles, ease up a bit. She's just a little girl. Then he turned to Mia and said, I'm sorry, but he's right. Athens is on high alert right now, so you can't go there. And look, it's pretty late now, so why don't you spend the night in one of our guest rooms and you can leave in the morning. And I'm sure we can get you something else for helping out Max. Ajax then called a butler bot to show her to a room, but Mia did not move. Instead, she looked down at the floor and said, There is one other reason I want to go to Athens. She pulled up the left sleeve of her shirt and revealed a mark to them. At first, Maximus thought it was a tattoo, but then he realized the mark was burned into her skin, like how cattle were branded on farms using heated iron. The symbol was of a candle with thorny vines growing on it, and the fire on the tip of the candle formed the letter C. Maximus had no idea what the symbol meant, but the looks on Achilles and Ajax told him they did. Mia, on the other hand, was staring at the ground, trying not to make contact with anyone's eyes. She looked like she was really embarrassed about something and about to cry. After a few seconds, she covered up the symbol as quickly as she could. Isn't that? Ajax began to say, but Achilles raised his hand to silence him. Mia still hadn't looked up from the ground, and it didn't look like she was planning to. But Achilles said, All right, you can come with us. Maximus expected her to jump with joy on hearing this, but she merely nodded with her eyes still facing the ground. Why don't you go and rest in your room for now? We can talk more in the morning, Achilles said more gently now. Mia nodded again and followed the butler bot out of the hall. Now what was all that about? Hedger asked, just as confused as Maximus. And what's with the mark? If you don't know, I think it's better that you don't find out. Besides, it's not our place to say anything. It's her story to tell, Ajax said. Besides, we have a more pressing matter at hand and the boss should be here in a minute. Maximus decided to leave Mia and her mark in the back of his mind for now. Ajax was right. The murderer was more important at the moment. Hephaestus joined them after a while, and he came rolling in on his wheels again. But the sharp look from Ajax gave him the hint, and he switched to his bionic feet. This better be good. I was just about to fit the Minotaur with an electronic eye socket when you interrupted me, he said. How is Rex anyway? Maximus asked. The smith god's face lit up with a smile on this inquiry. Oh, he's coming along nicely. You'll all see the finished product soon enough. Everything is right on schedule, or was until you people interrupted me, he said. Well, I'm happy your new project is going well, boss, but you have duties as the king as well. And right now the city is facing some difficulty, Ajax said. Then he continued to explain the killings done by the man in black. Maximus chipped in and said what he had seen as well. Hephaestus listened to all this silently in his seat. After they were done, he asked, So, all the people who were killed were dirt picks, in other words, criminals. Ajax said yes to this. And none of the civilians or our own soldiers came to be harmed, correct? Hephaestus said, and Ajax nodded to this also. Then what's the problem? Give the guy a medal for all I care. He seems to have done the city a favor, Hephaestus said, and he sounded serious. I don't think it's that simple, Ajax said. No, actually it is, the smith god began. What has happened here has nothing to do with us. It was a turf war between two groups. And this is precisely what happens when a puny group like this Darwin Mafia tries to go up against the real underworld. So I choose not to interfere. So you're going to sit by and do nothing? Maximus asked. Hephaestus looked at him a bit annoyed. Would you rather have me start a war with the underworld mafia? Because I can tell you right now that is not a war we can win. Maximus was confused now. Hephaestus was talking like the entire underworld was all part of one huge mafia organization. Maximus asked him this, and the smith god said, that is exactly what it is. Listen, kid, I've been around for a long time, and I'm talking centuries, and I've seen quite a few things. So let me tell you a little secret. The members of the mafia in different countries are all interconnected. And the strongest mafia families in every single country ruled by a god or anyone else actually belong to the same organization and report to the same man, the Don. And it is this organization which I call the underworld. Maximus thought about what he just heard. This meant that the underworld actually controlled the darker side of the entire world, while pretending to be different groups as to avoid detection. Not a lot of people know this reality. The person who took care of all the dirt pics is probably a high-ranking member of the underworld, Hephaestus said. Judging by the power and skill of this guy, I wouldn't be surprised if he was a capo, Achilles added. What's a capo? Hedger asked. Capo is short for capo regime. It's a rank within the underworld mafia given to only the most loyal and powerful of their soldiers. Think of them as the mafia generals, Ajax said. It's a very high rank within the organization, and they only have to answer to the Don. They say that the capo regimes of the underworld are as powerful as the Olympian gods themselves, including me, Hephaestus said. But they are a mysterious group, and no one knows who they are or how many of them are there. The one thing that is certain is that all of them are unwaveringly loyal to the Don. Maximus tried to remember the man in black, and he had to agree he seemed to be as dangerous as any god. But then Maximus wondered who would possibly be influential enough to control such a dangerous man, and others like him. So who's the Don then? He asked. Hephaestus straightened in his seat and looked directly at him and said, They say he is the richest man in the world, and that the darkness itself shifts to his will. You all must have certainly heard of him before. He is the Lord of the Underworld, Don Hades. This has been a chapter from Book 1 of the new World Odyssey series, The Soldiers of Ares. Links to the books in the bio. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this chapter, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. See you in the next chapter.